The Medical Courier Connection podcast is brought to you by Key Software Systems. With Key Software, we believe that every delivery has a story, and it starts with you. That's why we built an ecosystem uniting accounting, delivery, tracking and shipping, reporting, and more to not only bring full delivery transparency to your customers, but to reduce errors and inefficiencies that stand in the way of over-delivering on your customer expectations. We will drive the heavy lifting that keeps your business innovative with the latest technology so that you can focus on building connections with your customers.
Hey everybody, hey everybody, hey everybody, hey everybody, Ken with Integrity, Ken with Integrity, Ken with Integrity, Ken with Integrity Medical Courier Training.
We are providing on-site training in Roseville, Minnesota.
A man's digits turn blue due to too much cannabis use. A woman in Melbourne, Australia dies after being scratched by Minty, her cat. Stole the hearse and dumped the body on the side of the road, still strapped to the gurney, and then continued on with their joyride. A dog had to be put down after it was crushed by a package thrown over a garden fence, its owners claim. So, stay compliant, my friends. Get all your medical courier training needs from us at www.integritydelivers.com.
Welcome back to the Medical Courier Connection podcast. How's it going, Ken?
Hey, it's going great, Chris. I love that intro. I'm always thinking about that poor dog that got squashed by the package.
Yep.
And then Minty the cat. So you got me really distracted again today, but really excited because we've got a special guest today on our podcast. For the first time, he'll be our first guest. So I asked him to be gentle with me. And Chris, you got a bio you want to read on? Let's let everybody know who we got on today.
So today we have Larry Zogby from RDS Same Day Delivery. Early in his career, Larry developed a passion for business as he managed a popular five-star restaurant in historic Bay Ridge. Combining his hands-on experience with a valuable academic foundation, Larry earned a BA degree in finance and management from the College of Staten Island. After graduating in 1986, Larry purchased RDS Same-Day Delivery service from his father, Mitchell Zogby Jr., who bought the business in 1973. Now, with more than 36 years of logistics experience as one of New York City's area's top-tier delivery services, he is proud and grateful to be a valued member of numerous logistics-related groups and associations. Larry is passionate about entertaining, marketing, branding, the beach, and continued education. Welcome, Larry.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Ken, for having me. I have to say, that was a great introduction. Wow, that should be on TV, your opening introduction, Ken. I love it.
Yeah, we listen, when we started on TikTok, we first of all, I didn't want to go on TikTok, wanted nothing to do with it, but my daughter convinced me that there's a lot of money being made on TikTok. Dad, you got to get in there. Chris and I went on TikTok. We started posting videos like that. And the funny thing about the dog and cat video is that we first did the video of the cat scratch fever thing. And suddenly thousands of people were defending cats because, the video was anti-cat. And we thought, well, this is great. Let's do a video about dogs. And so the dog and cat people were fighting. And what did it do? It brought more people to our TikTok page, and the rest is history. But yeah, thank you. Chris put that together. We're pretty proud of it. So Larry, you and I have known each other for about, 14 years?
I'd like to say almost 2 decades.
There you go. I like that. Let's round it up. But we've seen each other at industry events. Usually it was the MCAA back in the day, things like that. But Larry, you actually helped us in a major way. Linda and I hosted the Medical Transportation Summit in 2013, 14, and 15, and you graciously agreed to come out and entertain us. And man, you saved that first convention. That first convention was very dry. And then you showed up with your skills and magic and entertainment. And this is what you do to people when you're out live. This is genuine reaction from everybody.
Hey, is that my entertainment? Which one is that? Hold on. It looks like the entertainment. Go ahead.
It's the entertainment, yeah. And the thing is, some are clapping. Larry Schwartz, is it Larry Schwartz? John Schwartz in the middle has got this look on his face like, what just happened? Daniel is shocked, but that's it. When anybody who knows Larry, when you encounter Larry Zogby, you are a force to be reckoned with. And I've loved our relationship over the years, and you've really been you really helped us with your wisdom and your insight of the industry, and you're just a good friend, and so loved coming and seeing your operations in New York City. I had never been to New York. Chris had before, but I'm still kind of gaga over New York City. I don't know. It does something to you.
Yeah.
New York is Manhattan, the city is a special city. It's a special energy, greatest city in the world. We go through our trials and tribulations. And what you experienced here at my corporate headquarters in Long Island City is something special. But that's, I'm in business now 38 years. And when you came live to New York City to train over 100 couriers, what you witnessed was the better part of my career.
Yeah. That and you know what, the thing I noticed about your company is that the culture of your company, the people that work there, truly love to work there. Chris, maybe post-production will drop in some pictures, because there's always something going on at RDS. People are spinning the wheel, they're winning prizes, they're getting, it's a party atmosphere. But what it shows me is that you truly value your drivers, and that cannot be monetized. The effect that has, because happy drivers go out and love on your clients and keeps your clients happy. And I think you found this. I've never seen anything like it.
I had to learn the hard way. I think we can jump into the culture, but let's jump into where I failed. So let's think about dash cams, inbound, outbound dash cams. Think safety. So every one of your fans and everyone that shows up, I would encourage them to have a dash cam in their car. I mean, in today's society, I am watching everybody sue each other. We live in a litigious society. They're handing out $10 million nuclear verdicts like they're candy. So it doesn't make a difference if you're a driver, independent contractor, and or you own a small company. Having a dash cam could save you from a lot of liability.
Okay, elaborate. What happened?
So in the beginning, what we just did one day was on a weekend, we put dash cams in all the vehicles. Drivers didn't like it. They hated it. We didn't give them any advance warning, so they started covering the dash cams. And I had to work the equation backwards. They felt they were violating. And I understand that. But the reason why we did it was from an insurance point of view. Insurance premiums are going nuts. Long story short, we decided to reward the drivers based on their safety score. So 4 to 5 times a year, we're always having events, and we're always, they're usually about 3 hours long, but it's all revolved around safety, getting to know the drivers, recognition, rewards, awards, money, checks, warm hugs, so we can be part of each other's lives.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I've been out to several companies all over the country. We travel several times a year, and you can get a vibe from certain drivers. And some of the other companies that I go to, they grumble and they mumble, and you can see that there's issues in the company. But I don't see that with you guys. You got the secret sauce. You're keeping your drivers happy. Safety is a big issue. Safety and compliance. You want to talk a little bit about compliance and how it was that issue of the thing about insurance companies and how they reward you for maintaining safety and compliance, things like bringing us out.
So we'll talk about insurance for a hot second, then we can jump back to compliance. I think I was just speaking to you the other day about how photos and data is going back and forth to the database. And the hospitals, they want to make sure we're HIPAA compliant and everything is encrypted.
Yep.
But if we speak to insurance, I now belong to something called a captive insurance. And the reason why we're in a captive insurance is because in certain cities and states, insurance is out of control. Think New York City, think Florida, think of certain states where they're getting hammered because of traffic or hurricanes. Think Florida for hurricanes. Nobody wants to be in Florida anymore. So in any event, if we play and manage safety the right way, we get to pay a normal premium. If we continue to manage safety in a way where it's efficient and effective, they actually write us a check back. So it's in our best interest to invest not only in safety, but give some of those dividends back to the drivers. Have a great safety score over 90, let us write you a check. We want to reward them for being safe.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's great. How many other courier companies out there? I mean, you're an advocate. When you find something that works, you're sharing it with everybody who will listen. How many other courier companies out there are listening to your message and adapting that approach?
All right. So I'm a different animal, different breed. I'm a W-2. I'm an employee-based company.
Right. Yep.
There are a lot of companies that have W-2 employees plus 1099s and or independent contractors. I would even encourage an independent contractor, even though it's not required because they can't control you, is to insert a dash cam into your vehicle. And the reason why you want to do that is because then you can go back to your insurance company, demonstrate a level of safety, and negotiate a cheaper rate.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I suppose you could incentivize the contractors that if you allow us to put this dash cam in, we'll give you, a stipend for that consideration. The same way you have to encourage them to wear the uniform and wear the badges and all of that. There's always an incentive that you can offer them as a fellow businessman.
So I like where you're going. There's two schools of thought. So people show up to work and sometimes they get penalized because they're coming late. And or you set up a compensation plan where they get rewarded to come to work on time.
Yeah.
There's a way to look at comp and give rewards for everything to make sure that people are being rewarded for doing the right thing day in and day out.
Has RDS always had the employee model?
No, I had a mixture of independents and employees. And in 2015, we switched the flip. We flipped it. We flipped it because there was too many frivolous class action lawsuits. And we just felt that, we felt it wasn't a good thing to be an independent contractor company. We were exercising, it's just a better way to go. So if you look back here, we own our vehicles. They're all branded. Everybody wears a uniform. Yep. So we're able to drive trust with brand ambassadors and branded vehicles. Drives trust.
Oh, yeah. So when we flew out to New York City, we were taking a lift from the airport. There we go. Love that pic, Chris. We were taking a lift from the airport to our hotel, and we saw a walker with your uniform. Immediately, boom. And it caught our eye. We knew it. And it grabs your attention. And we saw a van off in the distance. Yep. The colors just reach out and grab you. And it's amazing marketing. You have got branding down to a T.
So we could speak about that because your audience could really adapt it. Sometimes people could look at an investment as an expense, and wrapping vehicles is probably one of the cheapest ways to go. Yeah. Let's say to wrap that vehicle costs about $3,500. That wrap will last over 5 years.
Nice.
And if you just looked at a $3,500 investment divided by 60 months, you're talking about $58 a month and or $13.50 a week. And or for $1.93 a day, $1.93 per day. Think 5 years. That's being advertised every day.
Right. Man. Yeah, way cheaper than a billboard in New York City for sure.
Well, any dense city, and I did the research on this, think New York City because I'm here, we get about 40,000 impressions just from one vehicle. Wow. Right? And they understand how to use the math. And where did I get that from? I went right into ChatGPT. And I wanted to understand the city that I live in and the cost effectiveness of the brand and the impressions.
Yeah, no, it's and up and coming younger courier services can definitely learn from what you do. I think you're a master brander, and the emails that go out, we get them 2 or 3 times a week. roughly updates on what's going on in the company, or just, issues. And there is some controversy about emails. A lot of people say emails are dead. What's your thought on that?
Email marketing is still one of the most cost-effective ways to communicate with your customer base. It's cost-effective. We send them on average once a month and bi-monthly, right? Because there's different updates that we want to share. We have a very high open rate at about a 36% open rate and a click rate with about 3.5%. And it took time to earn that trust and confidence from the database.
Right.
But I want your audience to think about one thing. They accumulate a whole database of people, prospects, customers, whoever's in their database, and they need a database. Think if they have a wrapped vehicle, think if they invested in a uniform, and think about if they invested in once a month, how do I communicate what's going on in the world, in my corner of the world? And so you're tying a brand, you're telling a story.
Yeah, I absolutely. And the visibility and the recognizability is you can't monetize it, but you actually can. You've done the research, you have the numbers. By the way, do you have a name for that calculator? It's funny that you brought that out. You once said that you sleep with your numbers, and I started laughing when you grabbed the calculator. I thought, here we go with the numbers.
Here's the line that gets everybody going. I sleep with my numbers more than I sleep with my wife. But that happened because I had a client once, and I think your audience is going to relate to this. I thought it was all the money in the world. It was $300,000 client. And when we did the math, the only person that made any money was the salesperson. We didn't know our numbers. So imagine having a $300,000 client only to find out we didn't make any money. Mm-hmm. And it was from that day forward, we needed to understand how the numbers work. And I think we could go down a path, if you want, of what drivers should be paid or what they should be billing. Or I don't know if you want to go down that path or give ranges.
I think what we could do, certainly from a 1,000-foot level, is talk about the concepts and the ideas. Because, for example, Linda's working on she's put finishing touches on a class right now that teaches new courier startups how to budget, how to understand whether or not they're making money on a delivery. Because, some of the mindset with some of the social media, millions of people are on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, all these social media outlets, and they're trying to find out, how can I start as a medical courier? Matter of fact, we have a class tomorrow, Linda and I are hosting, called First Steps. That's more of it's not a deeper dive into the numbers, but we give them a way to build a foundation. But when it comes to numbers, I mean, people will hop in a car and they'll do a DoorDash delivery because they're not busy, but they accept the delivery, and then they end up driving for an hour in their car, and they realize they just lost money on that delivery. Medical couriers must not operate that way, or if they do, eventually it's gonna catch up with them and they're gonna lose.
So then I would do it this way, from the big picture point of view. I think it's so important, and again, artificial intelligence can help you, but if I'm an independent contractor working solo and trying to start my business, I've really got to understand what these costs look like. What does it cost to park my car? What does it cost to make a vehicle payment? What's my cost for fuel? What's my cost for equipment? What's my cost for contribution to accidents, tolls, parking tickets, insurance, liability, a broken mirror? And at the end of the day, on top of all those expenses, what do I need to earn to sustain myself? And no one's taking enough time to understand what that looks like, and they should change themselves.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, because there's meals, there's gas, there's all these things that you do. It's got to make sense. Otherwise, you're basically a ministry giving your services away for free. And that's not why we get into the industry for lots of different reasons. I remember when I started my first company, and I had reasons for it, but If you're not there to make money, then you're wasting your time, your family's time, who either doesn't get to see you on holidays. Larry, I can't tell you how many holidays I've spent in my vehicle driving by, watching other people in their homes celebrating the holidays while I was out delivering a package. I can't tell you how many times I've done that. And
Let's talk about that for a second. It's important. And you just hit a key note.
yeah,
So let's think about whether it's Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever that big holiday is. We're open 24/7. We serve the medical community, like you know.
yeah,
We need to get our team out of bed, leave their significant other, and leave their children. We don't do it with time and a half. I go straight to triple pay.
oh,
We put them
wow.
jumping out of bed to be able to serve that client and be able to look at their spouse and their children. Daddy or mommy's got to go to work because we're going to crush it. If we don't
Yeah.
celebrate them in that way on those sacred holidays, what are we doing?
Yeah, yep.
And,
Yeah,
that's hard to, and Ken, that's not a hard sale to the customer. Who's going to come out of their house on Christmas and Easter and New Year's?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're exactly right. I've been there, done that. I want to pivot just for a second, Larry. Are you comfortable sharing any experiences or stories that stick out to you? Now, there was one experience you shared to me about a pivot point in your company, and maybe we can go there if and when you're comfortable with it. But that was a life-changing time. I mean, we're talking about COVID. But I was just wondering if you would be comfortable in sharing a pivot point in your business
Yeah,
during COVID.
I think it's a great story. We learned a lot of lessons from COVID. So I'm in business. COVID happened, as everybody knows, 2020, March of 2020. The governor gets on TV and shuts down every business unless you were an approved business.
Yeah.
One of the toughest days of my life, 2 weeks later, I had to fire 50 people in one day. And we did it rather quickly so we don't burn through cash. And if I didn't know my numbers, I wouldn't know how quickly to make that decision, and we would have just bled out.
Yeah.
So here we are, it's March 20th, probably by March 27th, March 30th, I terminate 50 people, and we start the decline of losing 166,000 a month. Now, we just got to this brand new facility 13 months ago, and we're bleeding 166,000 a month. And I did share with my wife, I'm not coming home until I figure it out. Now, the streets were empty, and people would be calling from their homes, and they were really scared about how to get projects done. I took a team of people, we went, analyzed the deals in the street, and then we used FaceTime. And we educated the prospect and their customer of what we're gonna do and how we're going to do it. I never took a phone call during COVID. It was always either FaceTime or a Zoom. I was either showing my facility or showing everybody what we were going to do. And those things actually started to change the dynamic, and there was a lot of trust and a lot of contracts. And we're talking about going from losing 166,000 a month to rebuilding that within 18 months.
Wow.
It really started around meal delivery, if you want to hear that short story.
Yes.
There was a client of mine, the Little Beat. We've been servicing them for about 10 years. Maybe they have about 9 or 10 stores in the city. She got a donation for $30,000 from a customer. And he said to her, just feed the frontline heroes and the people that can't get out of their homes to get food. She called me up and said, I have all this money, how are we gonna do it? And from that picture that you saw that I memorialized in my office, I went down there and we figured it out together. It wasn't just about how much you're gonna charge for Courier. It was, okay, here's the plate of food. How much protein, how much vegetables? What are we gonna package it in? How many meals can we get in a bag? How many bags can we get into a commercial bin? We worked the math backwards to know that when we leave in a commercial bin, we got 300 meals. We're in a van. You can fit 5 commercial bins inside of one van. That's 1,500 meals. No traffic in the city. And it's kind of that math, that type of partnership, and that type of vulnerability of how we're going to figure something out in the middle of a crisis and make it work for everyone.
Yeah. And you know, that was such a pivotal moment for you? Because so many. I was just trying to look up a statistic. It differs how many businesses actually closed or laid people off. 27% roughly, 20 to 30% of the workforce, small businesses either closed or laid people off during COVID. And you could have been part of that statistic.
We are so blessed. It's by the hand of God. It's by the hand of something greater than me. But I will say, after 38 years of being in business, going through trials and tribulations, think about some of the trials and tribulations. Think about 9/11 and rebounding from that. Think about the financial collapse in 2008 and what that did to the economy. Think about Katrina in 2012. Think about just losing 3 clients for whatever the reasons are. And then think about COVID. We were a well-oiled machine to be able to handle setbacks, failures, be resilient, understand numbers, luck, and the blessing from a power greater than me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's amazing. And again, as an entrepreneur, I saw restaurants closing for good all over our city during COVID. Look at that pic. Love it. And it made me angry and upset, and sad for the people, because think about it this way. So many people had their homes, their mortgages, they had business loans that they leveraged into the business. Everything was riding on that business. And by the stroke of the pen, the governors in their state said, nope, shut it all down. But they let, I want to be careful here. They let Walmart stay open, marijuana dispensaries, liquor stores, and hardware stores. They could stay in business. It was the mom and pop shops that provided delivery services for factories or whatever. A lot of people were forced out of business during that time, and even the factories themselves. And I don't know that we'll ever allow that to happen again.
It was poorly constructed. They used this terminology that only essential business could be open.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what that definition meant at the time, right? So when I'm hearing the governor say on March 20th, everyone's getting shut down except essential, we're Googling, what does essential mean? And we happen to be an essential business, but think about it was horrible for everyone.
Yeah.
I don't want to, again, we were blessed, but resiliency is part of it. But what could we share to your audience to give them the value, the single entrepreneurs, the independent contractors? How do we get them to really start understanding?
Easy, the ability to pivot in the. Nope, I'm sorry, we had congestion there.
There you go.
You were mid-sentence. Go ahead, Larry.
No, it was understanding numbers and the ability to pivot. But the question is, pivot where? Think through that. Pivot where? And
okay. In the lab industry, Larry, you had thousands of laboratories all over the country whose main business was daily patients coming in to have their cholesterol tested, to have their blood pressure, all these different things that go in a lab specimen. All these people were coming in to get their blood work done on a routine investigatory basis, and they were no longer allowed to do that. So a lot of these laboratories pivoted and they started doing COVID sample testing. And so that's a great example of an industry in the midst of shutdown saying, we need to stay alive. How are we going to do it? Let's do COVID tests.
So let's pivot right there. So because, and this comes from, we're part of organizations. We've been networking. We're a well-oiled machine, but we were the benefactor of $1 million contract over 2 years, picking up and delivering COVID tests. Exactly what you just said. Mm-hmm. So there was opportunity being born in the middle of a crisis, but you have to be able to pivot, have a network in order to be able to capture that, and then be nimble enough to make it happen while you have just fired 50 people.
Yeah.
And then scale back.
Yep. So Integrity Medical Courier training, when we started to see that there were shortages for masks all over the country, we got together, true story, and we rounded up 3 sewing machines. Bethany worked at the American Heart Association. She did research on what needs to go into the masks. And we started going all over town, snatching up supplies to make masks. We had a system down. We started sewing, creating, shipping, and selling masks to courier companies all over the country so they could continue to do their work.
I want to pivot away from trying to give some value. I think you have a lot of small independent businesses in your community.
Yeah.
And so I think they could do three simple things. I really believe investing in a rep, a uniform, and really having a platform just to communicate. And what you're constantly doing is communicating with these laboratories, prospects and customers, because if someone's not greasing that wheel, think about it this way, a farmer goes and he plants his seeds, waters it, takes care of it, right? We gotta think like a farmer, because if we're not planting seeds and developing the crop, what's gonna happen? That means we're going from one door to the next. It's not gonna happen that way. I'm always training people to think like a farmer. What does a farmer do to get their crops ready? They got to invest time, effort, and energy into the soil, to planting and nurturing. And we got to do that with prospects.
Okay, so a new courier startup then has to be calling on either on phone, in person, constantly selling. I heard a mentor of mine one time said, if you're not growing as a business, you're dying. And he also said every client eventually leaves. Think about that. If you think with that mindset that eventually every client's going to go somewhere else, you would be constantly bringing new clients on board to make sure that if you lose a client, it's not going to be that death stab that takes you down.
This is so true. I think today it's really hard to make phone calls and try to cold sell. I think the marketing has changed, but I think we could take the same content we're using on email marketing and kind of break that up and post it on social media. So you're leveraging social media, you're leveraging email marketing, you have a rep vehicle, you have a brand, you're working. So we're working and we're using leverage to a community that knows that they can buy your product. But if we're not greasing that wheel once a month, once a week through social, every day on social, once a week on email, drop a phone call, get creative. You got to get creative to get the prospect's attention. And you can't use price as a tool. If you use price as a tool, you'll destroy yourself.
Right. Yeah, always fighting to be the lowest, the cheapest. We can undercut these guys, we can undercut those guys. And I've met courier companies like that, and it's a miracle to fathom how they're staying open, but it's not always about the cheapest price. For some purchasing managers, it's attractive.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. So I'm on a phone call the other day, and I realized they don't know how to purchase courier service, whether you're in the medical industry or outside of the medical industry. Think about its procurement. He has a courier for 5 years, and now they want to put it out to bid. He's got to go buy courier service. What does he know about buying courier service? Or she? Nothing. They're buying a price point. Somebody's got to interview procurement to understand what they want, what they need, how it's going to work. And if you want a custom price, this is what it's going to look like. If you're looking for the lowest price, there's the door. Because really what's going to happen, and they need to be educated, you can buy the lowest price, then you just bought something that's not going to sustain itself, and you put your customers at jeopardy. You put your customer at jeopardy. And we can't let them do that. We need to educate them on paying a fair price. Right. A fair price. I mean, who do we have to pay? The drivers, the support team. I got to get up in the morning and care about your business, not to win the contract and I sold my soul to the devil and I don't care about you anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. And so having, and this is interesting because when I go live, a lot of the times I'm telling people to count the cost. When you're looking to get into if you're looking to get into this business, where's your credit? Do you have any money saved? How many miles are on your current vehicle? And I also talk, Larry, about aptitude. And I don't mean to be condescending, but I think some people are more better designed to be employees than to be entrepreneurs. But on social media, you have these figureheads that are telling people, get into the industry. You can make $200,000 a year in Detroit, Michigan. I heard a lady say this the other day. You can make the average medical courier in Detroit, Michigan is making $200,000 a year. I shot milk right out of my nose when I heard that, because I know Detroit, Michigan, and I know what they're going through. And there's no way in the world the average medical courier is making $200K a year in Detroit, Michigan. But the bigger issue is people see that and they listen to this influencer and they want to do that. They get the idea in their head that they can do this too, and they can make all that money, but they haven't done the research. They haven't built their company. They haven't counted the costs, and they just get into it. And then within 3 to 6 months, they're out of business and they lost everything.
So isn't it amazing? It's like gossip, right? We're listening to one side of a story. We're not fact checking what we're learning, and we're putting all our trust and faith from somebody that it looks good and it feels good. That's a problem in today. It's a bad problem. And unfortunately, there's too many people online selling courses and selling stuff and get rich quick schemes.
There it is.
And it's a shame.
I often say somebody's getting six-figure rich. Somebody is. Somebody's getting six-figure rich, and it's usually the influencers selling their $600 courses on how to start a courier company.
Well, you use the keyword aptitude. Not everyone is cut out to be an entrepreneur, not because they can't. The real question is, do they want to take on all that risk? There's risk, and you're up 7 days a week, and you're being scrappy in the beginning, and you're putting 18 hours a day until you can get it up and running. And oftentimes you're not getting a paycheck. And do they have enough grit to get past those tough times before they can start to win?
Right. I don't know if I told you the story, Larry. When I started my first company, AlphaStat Courier Services in Minneapolis, Minnesota, I started it when I worked as a lab employee, and the logistics manager at that lab told me, Kenny, if you start a medical courier company, I will give you evenings and weekends. Now, I knew what the volume was on evenings and weekends, and I knew what they charged. And I'm like, I'm going to make tons of money at this. So Linda and I started up the company. We had to register with the Department of Transportation in Minnesota. I had to go to a class. We did all that. We lined up insurance. We lined up two-way radios, the magnet mount kinds that you put on we had to use those to communicate. And we got all that set up. And then the day we turned the key on the business, we had hired 2 people plus ourselves. The phone didn't ring. That was day 1. The phone didn't ring. That was day 2. The phone didn't ring. Day 3, 2 weeks. And I start calling the logistics manager and I'm like, hey, Dick, we're out here. What's going on? Oh, I'll have to go back and talk to our CSRs. We didn't get our first call for 3 weeks, and I ended up cashing in my 401k from the lab to float payroll for that period.
To that story, anybody that really wants to get involved, they should really have a cushion of money saved and have the aptitude. I'll go back to that word, to be willing to burn through it when the proverbial S hits the fan, because it will. It's not a matter of if, it's when. Every day there's a crisis going on. And in today's litigious society, if you're a 1099, you can be chosen as your misclassified. If you're a W-2 employee, you can get sued for anything. We live in a culture where really it's against the entrepreneur because the stakes for risk is so high. It's so high. And I'm not sending people away. I just want them to be aware of it.
So what would you recommend? I'm going to ask you this really quick. What level of insurance would you recommend for a new courier startup to purchase? And is there any particular type of insurance? What's been your experience there?
Yeah, so every insurance, it starts at $1 million, minimum, $1 million, minimum. You need $1 million.
That's per incident. That's not an umbrella, right?
Yeah, so even small businesses, they can't even, insurance is dicey. I choose not to talk about insurance right now, not sure why. One size doesn't fit all, right? So if you're talking about a 1099 contracting, he's not going to have to carry the $1 million. If you're talking about a master contractor and maybe he has 10 subs, he might need a $3 or $5 million umbrella. It all depends.
Right.
So I would love to be in a circle where we have insurance companies, where we have lawyers, where so we could speak to how to add more value to the contractors and the W-2 employees to keep them out of trouble and keep them making money.
Yeah. That's a great idea. Maybe we'll do a roundtable in the future. Bring on somebody like Jason Burns. We've been kind of talking him off as well about possibly having him come on.
What if you bring this picture up, and it's not important for me to, bless you, it's not important to name the client, but when you came to train 100 employees like 8 months ago, it was October of 2024. I know you're on the calendar to come back in 2025 and just in a few short months. Walking the halls with you through these facilities, I was very proud to introduce you to lab managers, directors, supervisors. I mean, what was your experience walking the hall, knowing you trained my company? What was that feeling like, meeting all those people behind the scenes?
Actually, it was great. That's my passion, because you are one of the only clients that I have, and we've trained almost 800 couriers and laboratories all over the world, but you are the only one that said, no, you're not riding with my drivers. We're going to meet the clients. And that, I was so excited. I was actually pleased with that, because I come from the clinical lab industry. I want to see how they see you. I want to see how they see your drivers. I want to see how they see your service. I want to gauge that. I want to experience that. I mean, that's where I'm at. That's where I live. I don't mind riding with the drivers. That's when they drag me around, they like to see if I can keep up or not. And my tiny little legs, it's like an Oompa Loompa out there. But that's where I loved it. I mean, I really actually enjoy meeting the medical clients and seeing how they perceive your services. That's where I tick.
Well, our takeaway was, because you agreed to come with us, we had leverage. So you're viewing what we're doing day to day, and you're looking at the different departments, you're looking at the opportunities, you're looking at the risks, you're looking at the ambient, the reefer, the frozen, you're looking at how close things are. We've done rat tails, we've done animals, and you've given me a ton of information, and for me, that's leverage. If I didn't get to see you in this community, you couldn't do the data dump. I don't need you with one guy. You should almost, in my opinion, make it a requirement whenever you do live training. I want to go for the 3-hour tour to go see what your team is doing. I think there's gold there.
Yeah,
I think there's gold there.
Yeah, listen, I ultimately, the clients that bring me out are in the driver's seat. I'll do whatever they tell me, and every time I ask them, "Can we meet with your clients? Would you bring me to meet your client?" Some of them consider it. Others like, no, we're not going to do that. And
I think, I'm sorry to cut you off. And so I'll never forget, I had a group of people, 12 people from the leadership team from a medical facility. They asked a question. I couldn't answer it. I called you right here. Went to voicemail. You called me back in 5 minutes. And even when you gave them the answer, they were still baffled. and so think about me bringing my consultant to the medical, to them. This is my consultant. Yeah. This is my consultant, and his team is training my team. There's so much value, perception, and perceived value.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And yes, I am your consultant. I'm yours to do with as you please, with limits. You know this. I love you, Larry. I can't wait to come back out and see the rest of New York City.
Yeah, we had a blast, and I know, and I left you. We parted ways saying, I know we need to invest more time in training. It's never enough, right? The time that we spent over 3 days of training, full days, it's still not enough. It needs more.
Oh yeah, I mean, I agree. The other thing that you touched about bringing me on site, I have a different set of eyes, a fresh set of eyes. So I'm going to see things you might see every day, but not think anything of it. And, came up with a couple of issues, and that's what I do. I mean, as someone who's been in the industry as long as I have, it's the ability to identify something and say, hey, let's watch this, because if we don't fix it, it could come back to bite us. And, but there wasn't a lot. Now, this is interesting. I was in Sacramento during the holidays, and a client of mine took me out to meet some of their clients, and we bumped into a driver that was transporting chemotherapy medicine. And I said, hey, what do you got there in that tub? And he goes, hey, it's chemotherapy medicine. And I said, oh, have you been through our class? And he looked up at the guys that were hosting me, and they looked at each other, and he said, well, no. And they all kind of looked around like, well, we didn't even know he was doing that.
You know,
and so
you say something interesting. Chris, can you bring that photo back of the live training? If you could just bring it back for a second. After every session, Ken, I would be interviewing the guys, talking to them, just having a conversation. And they were delighted to be trained, right? So they're learning from a consultant. They're understanding what they're carrying. They really care about what they're doing. And now they're getting an education about how important it is. And what we love about your training, it's not dry. You inject humor. About every 7 minutes, you're injecting humor, and you're able to keep the team on point.
Yeah. Okay, we'll talk in generalities here. Linda, we made a strategic decision to get more insurance on Linda because she is irreplaceable. The things that she does for my business, to keep us compliant, legal, financial, all of it. I mean, she is literally the heartbeat of this company. Well, we bought extra insurance for her because she thought if anything happened to me, then you could, position yourself to be okay. Well, I had a fraction of her life insurance. And I'm like, listen, no, we got to fix this because as a man, now let me just talk as a man. I have friends that don't have life insurance, and I said some very vulgar things to them that if they died and left their wife and kids without life insurance, that I was going to defecate on their grave during the service. And my point is that a man provides for his family. A man does not leave his children and grandchildren without something. You know what I mean? So we got to figure that out.
That's a different. So I'm glad you brought that up, and I've read that. It's a mindset. It's a mindset to be able to leave for children and grandchildren legacy and think that way and not consume our whole lives.
Right.
Prepare ourselves for legacy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it. Oh, and so, yeah, every day we're leaving an imprint, whether it's good or bad. And that goes for the courier industry as well. Every day you're leaving an imprint. What you do with every client interaction is an imprint. You're representing either your business or somebody else's brand. How you behave during that interaction is going to leave them with a taste in their mouth. Either that guy's great, I love him, or gee, I wish they'd take him off my route. So we have to make that decision.
Let's think about the independence. I don't think there's anything wrong with what I'm about to say. I think it's a mentor taught me always be promoted. We go back to the wrap vehicle. We go back to a uniform. We go back to a hat. And when we're making our deliveries, there's nothing wrong with having a branded flyer. There's nothing wrong with leaving a branded flyer at the desktop. Nothing wrong with the social media and the email marketing. This becomes a package. It's called leverage. If we don't use leverage in our life, we're only making money off our hourly work. It's never going to sustain itself. We need to leverage.
That's great. That's a great point. So you're being a lot broader thinking as opposed to just today, just this moment, just this run. You're thinking on a larger scale of what you're doing. And you're always, Larry, I mean, you're always on point. This is funny. When we were in New York and it was our last day together, and we were trying to, you and I hadn't done any promo shots yet. And I said, Larry, let's take a picture in front of one of your vans. You got to have a van somewhere here. You got on the phone, you called your dispatcher in some South Sea island, and you said, where's my nearest van? Where's my nearest van? So you and I are running, of course, you a taller man and me a midget, running down the streets of New York, trying to find this van, which we did find. And what did we find when we found the van?
Yeah, it's funny. That was probably one van that was a temp van that wasn't even wrapped.
It wasn't wrapped.
Well, Ken said something interesting. I do work with people offshore, so I called somebody in Argentina who was actually dispatching for me.
Yeah.
His name is Nico. Branded fleets are important. Dash cams are important. Medical training is important. Understand what we're carrying is important. Not because I say so. Every single day, there's so many new laws that are just popping up. And we live in a culture of, I got you, as opposed to supporting the entrepreneur to succeed and make more jobs. I just want your community to always be learning, always trying to understand their risk and get trained on what they're carrying and how to handle it from a best practice point of view. And your team is the team to make that happen.
Absolutely.
I
Oh,
have
I
that
tell you
video
what.
of you guys running through the street looking for the van.
Is that the one, Chris? I didn't remember that you were there. Look at how far ahead he is of me.
I know, and me too. That's why I started recording.
Maybe we were
I was
going
like,
for that van, or we were hungry. Maybe we were going to lunch. I don't know.
No.
no, that was for the van for
I
sure.
was, look at me trying to. It's Willy Wonka and an Oompa Loompa trying to catch up. I feel like Hervé Vasquez, the plane, boss, the plane.
I felt the same way.
Oh my gosh, Larry,
It was so fun though.
you're a man.
I look forward to your visit. It's just a few short months away.
Yeah, me
So
too.
excited.
You are a man of energy and ideas, and you're constantly thinking. That's something that we haven't touched on, but we'll come back to that. We're going to do this again, Larry. But you are an example of someone who is constantly learning new things and applying those new things. And I'll tell you what, you are very forward thinking. You're not blinded to the tyranny of the urgent, but you're always looking for new ways to improve and grow and get your message out there. And I love you, Larry. And I wish I was half the promoter that you are. And
You are, Ken. You are. You really are. We just, you know what? First of all, thank you for that. And I think we're all blessed with special gifts, and when we're able to align those gifts in a team, then we can play off each other.
there you
Right?
go.
I want to be able to lean into your special gifts so you can help us, and vice versa. I don't
Yep.
think one human can have it all, and that's why we got to build teams.
Absolutely. Love it. On that note, let's wrap it up. We'll schedule another one a couple months down the road if you're okay with it. We've got a lot more things to talk about. Maybe we'll share some of those other stories of for me of things that drivers did. Just it's one of those, can you believe I get these phone calls, Larry, about once a week from courier companies around the country, and they say, you're not going to believe what one of my drivers just did. And I'm all ears. I need these stories. So maybe we'll just we'll share a little levity that at that point, but let's do another one of these.
Hey, I'll leave you with a fun story. You want to hear a fun story?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So think about every vehicle, and you have the charger to charge your phone, right? Well, anyway, he would want to charge his meal. He had like a little hot plate, right? So this auxiliary charger wasn't working. So what did he do? He lifted the hood of the car. The car's running, and he put the hot plate on the engine. He's heating his food on the engine. You can't make that stuff.
So was this well done, or was the van well done?
Oh my goodness.
That's funny. All right, so I'll tell you a better one. When I was a young man at the laboratory, I had to be, let's see, 25-ish years old. And my boss, Dean Stark, I'll never forget him. He was a tall, skinny guy that smoked more cigarettes than you could ever imagine. And Dean was our supervisor. And we had these Chevy Chevettes for the company with only AM radio. And I said, Dean, I like to listen to FM. I like to listen to music, And he goes, well, if you want to put something in the car, just go ahead. That's fine. I don't care. Well, I got these wireless headphones that got FM radio, and I'm driving in downtown Minneapolis with these headphones on, and I come into the parking lot at the laboratory, and of course, Dean saw me as a 20-something-year-old man coming into their parking lot with headphones on. We had to have a little talk.
Driving with headphones on.
I feel good about this. We could laugh at all those moments, but for me, they're all learning opportunities.
Right.
I didn't do my job right. You know what? The auxiliary should have worked. He needs to eat. I get it. I don't like the outcome, but we could learn from every one of these things.
Right. What happened to the van? Did the van burn down or what?
We could have.
Oh.
We were lucky. Wait, I had once 10 years ago, a driver bought a dog on his route, not the medical route, but in a 16-foot box truck. Like, WTF, how do you bring your dog? And we're talking about a big dog. Well, nobody was at home to watch it, so I needed to take it with me to work. And when my client saw that, he almost went nuts.
So, all right, I'll tell you, pivot off of that story. We have a medical client they have locations across the country, and one of their drivers was doing medical routes, and he had a service dog, a emotional support dog, in the car with him. And the client freaked out. He said, if you don't fix this, we're going to fire you But now this company's California based, so the issue was the rights of the driver to have a support animal with him versus the requirements of the client that we don't risk cross contamination with dog materials in their lab specimens. It was an interesting dichotomy.
Well, you're either going to win the fight and lose the war, or win the war and lose the fight. It just depends how deep your pockets are.
Yeah.
If you got deep pockets, you can take it on the chin. If you need the client, you got to go the other way.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And so that's the balancing act. I'm sure you deal with people all the time. And this is it. There's so many moving parts to a courier business. It's not just grab your phone, hop in the car, and let's do the deliveries. If you want to scale and grow your business and be successful, the problems grow with it. It's funny. I've got a gentleman who owns a courier company in Minneapolis. It's a freight company. He's very successful. I get the pleasure of staying with him when I go out there for training every year. But we used to joke about this. We call up on Fridays and laugh at each other. But, when I was a courier, a smaller courier company, a tire blowout could cost you a client. It could really be the end of the world for you. He had one of his drivers, he had a reefer van, and he had the refrigerated unit on top of the van. And he told his driver over and over and over again, when you go to do a delivery at the Mall of America, you've got to go around the back, go underneath the Mall of America. Do not park in the overhead lot. You don't have clearance. This courier didn't listen. He was distracted. Driving in that reefer van, goes into the upstairs lot, and what does it do? It clips the reefer unit right off the top of his truck. $8,000 repair later. So as you grow your business, your problems you grow with you. To
that point, I know we're running out of time. We've turned down clients for $700,000, close to $1 million, because they wouldn't let us scan. Now you got to understand, only experienced people would understand this. Think through. Everybody would raise their hand and take $1 million client, right?
Sure.
If we can't scan, location scan and barcode scan at the pickup and the delivery, then there's no accountability at the pickup and delivery. Yeah. So that means you onboard that client, you're carrying their money, and you're going to get fired in 6 months because you have no accountability of what you picked up and delivered. Sooner or later, who's going to get fired? The courier. And I realized I can't put myself or my company in a scenario if right out of the gate we can't have accountability through the supply chain. You can't. You need it. Otherwise, you're going to get blamed. Where do you think the expression "shoot the messenger" came from? They always get shot.
Did you? And by the way, that point is. I want to stay on that point just for a second. You literally walked away from a multi-million-dollar contract because they wouldn't let you scan and give them accountability for their product. It sounds like bank deposits. Having the ability to walk away and say the risk isn't worth the financial carrot that's being dangled in front of me. But that's interesting.
Well, it's important. It's only through trials and tribulations. Think about the effort to onboard $1 million client, knowing that you will get fired if you have no accountability. So I've seen the movie before. Why go through the effort and the training and recruitment, money in the street, only to get it all together? You know that you're carrying this much volume, no accountability. What are we going to pray? We're going to pray that we get it right, and you're going to get blamed for it. You got to let it go. Yep. And then I question the person who's making the decision. He should be fired. Not me. He shouldn't have his job that he won't allow us to scan.
Yeah. That's such a valuable point. Such a valuable point.
Larry, say no more than we say yes. We say no more than we say yes.
You're saying no to potential clients.
If we can't get it right, I'm worrying about you more than you're worrying about yourself. Mm-hmm. So we're setting a precedent. We're setting a frame. We're here. We'll back you up, but we needed to do it this way, and we tell our story. And we show the client success story. We show the white papers. Why would we want to get into bed with the client and know we're going to fail?
Yeah. Absolutely right. Excellent point on which to end. Larry, thank you. We'll have you on again. I so appreciate you guys. Larry Zogby, RDS Same Day Delivery. I appreciate you so much, Larry. Thank you for coming on today, and we'll do it again. I look forward to seeing you in just a few short months.
Chris, thank you. I appreciate, Ken, our relationship and our time over the last 2 decades. Talk to you soon.
Absolutely.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Hey everybody, Ken with Integrity Medical Courier Training.
I'm a medical courier. Of course I keep patient information private.
Dude, you are never gonna believe whose specimen I just picked up.
Oh! Oh, here it is. Dude, I don't know what any of this is. I wasn't paying attention in the integrity training class.
Yeah, that sounds a bit expensive. I think I'll just train them myself. After all, this isn't rocket science.